You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows like the one you're about to enjoy, visit electronicmediacollective.com. And now, our feature presentation.
And the man feels no pressure. I am the man that everyone fears.
You are now entering the vicious circle.
You are facing a fuel-injected suicide machine!
I'm the man. When I walk, the ground shakes. I am the master. I am the ruler of the world. They have been waiting below the surface. Shake the earth beneath the giant fire. Shake the earth beneath the giant.
Welcome to the Vicious Circle. Sid, how you doing?
Good, Rob. How you doing tonight? I know you're tired, but how are you doing other than being tired?
I got a little bit of sleep last night, so I'm feeling great. After the festival, that's all I did was sleep.
Is that the Blood and the Snow Festival?
No, that's the one coming up at the end of October. I did all the interviews.
Oh,
for
my
it.
God. I keep messing that up. I keep
That's
mixing that
okay.
up.
The one we did yesterday was the Chatham-Kent International Film Festival.
Okay.
That was the one at the drive-in.
Good deal.
It was a blast. Oh, it was. I'm going to throw this up because this guy, Kyle, he's here every week. Hey, Sid, from your buddy Kyle in Denmark, Wisconsin.
Hey, Kyle. What's up, man?
Kyle is always here and ready to participate. So one of the things we talked about last week, and somebody sent this picture and we were just talking about it. I wanted to get it up real quick. When you had your lung surgery,
Right.
you said they had to go in through your side and break a rib or two.
Right.
There's a picture of you laying in bed.
You know, you showed me. I'm trying to think. That must be, I can't tell. I guess that's after the surgery. I was in there waiting to get ready to go home.
You
Is
don't
that
look very
staple?
happy.
Is that staples in my side?
I'm wondering. It looks like there's a large bandage over the that white area there.
You know, this the thing is, I'm going to say that's probably after the surgery. I would have thought it would have been a little more covered up than that. I can't see if that's a scar. That's where the incision was. Yeah, but that looks like the hospital. Yep.
Yeah, because you can see the thing on the wall behind you with the blood pressure cuff. And
You know, someone came in, some wrestling. I think Japan came in and took some pictures, and I think Pro Wrestling Illustrated came in and took some pictures. Probably that's where they got that photograph at.
maybe. Let's see here. Oh, where was it? I wanted to bring this one up because Zach said, still have the box Bronco?
I do, man. I really do. We got a picture of it on the Instagram, right?
Oh, no, we can throw that up there, though.
Yeah, we'll throw one up there, and we'll put one on the Facebook too. Also, Rob, I want you to put that picture of my grandson and picture of Frank and Gunner on there as well.
You got it.
Everybody likes Frank because of the Big Brother thing, so we'll give everybody a picture to look at.
There we go. Tonight, we were going to start out with a gentleman who had an idea, but unfortunately, he hasn't gotten a hold of us.
Mhm.
So what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, just to start before the questions start coming in, talk a little bit about the $1 Million Corporation, because we got to WrestleMania last time.
Mhm.
It was right after that you jumped into the $1 Million Corporation with DiBiase and the crew.
Right.
How did that gimmick come along? You mentioned a little bit about it last week.
Really, I really feel like it was, from my understanding, that I was put with Ted, where Ted could, be with me and be sure that for keep an eye on me for whatever reasons. One, I guess, to where maybe I wouldn't go out and do something again. Again, it was because of that Arn Anderson thing. I think it was that, and also they wanted to know what I was doing at all times because, at this at this point, they knew how I was. I was pretty honest. If I didn't like something, I wasn't going to stick around. And I think they kept him with me as well to know those kind of things. It just stooged me off for every little thing I was doing. Ironically, weird how sort of the things turned. I've told the story once before where it'd either be me and Carl Willett or me and Bob Holly for the most part, and then we rode with Bart and Billy and other people too. But sometimes just be me and Bob or just me and Carl. It'd be with Ted with us, and it'd be the opposite where me and Carl or Bob would have to watch Ted and try to get him to his room without him drinking and trying to get some ugly woman to his room. This is a true story. We were somewhere in Canada, some little small place. Ted had invited himself into a wedding party, and me and Carl was sitting, or me and Bob, either or, I can't remember, was sitting in the lobby, just watching. There was a lot of people, we were talking and having fun, and this guy comes sits beside us. He got a camera and everything, and he introduces himself. He tells who he is, and he says that he's a private investigator. He's there to take pictures of this gentleman who's cheating on his wife. And so I stood in for a picture with the guy. I actually told the guy, I said, come over, I want to get a picture of you and your wife. And he goes, this isn't my wife, this is a friend. And they filmed that,
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I sort of helped stooge somebody off. But anyway, that's how it turned out. We would it turned out just the opposite. Again, I was watching Ted. Now, I hope I'm making this up, but I know I'm not. Me and Ted went out a few times, Ted liked to party. And we were off one night somewhere up in, I want to say it's Philadelphia. I'm almost 100% sure that it was Philadelphia. He had this guy he knew was a security guard and had that old Lincoln Continental that drove us around everywhere. We ended up on our night off going to a drive-in and taking acid.
Oh, really?
I'm not kidding. I'll never forget that. Going to a drive with Ted DiBiase and some old security guard and doing acid. I haven't taken acid maybe 4 times my whole life, but we were tripping, man. So that's how I got with Ted, just to party and take acid.
That would be a very interesting thing to watch, just to be a fly on the wall to see you two. Oh, man. We've got a question here. It's totally unrelated to wrestling, but I think you're going to like it. A buddy of mine, Rob Thibodeau, the comic that we put you in, right? We have a universe, and my buddy Rob helped create what we call Ravenous. It's 4 crows that attack the city. And I'll send you pictures. Every season, we have millions of crows that come to Chatham.
Okay.
I mean, there's times where the sky is filled with them. So he designed these. But here's Rob Thibodeau with his question. Dude, what's in your vinyl rotation you're playing? Just curious. Because he can see your stereo.
Well, I've got one of the albums I've gotten recently in the last year or so that I really enjoyed is a Dwight Yoakam. It's a solid bluegrass, and actually the album itself is blue too. It's pretty cool looking. It's called Swimming Pools and Movie Stars, and it's one of the best remake, better version. And I'm not saying this because I like bluegrass, but a better version of Prince's Purple Rain. It is, of course, I've got. I don't know if you see that one speaker. It's a JBL 4330. That's a 15-inch subwoofer with studio monitors. So it's really, you've been here, Rob. It's got really cool sound.
Oh, it's gorgeous sound.
But no, I've got that. I picked up an old album. It's not new. It's new to me. Junior Kimbrough. He's a blues artist that just barely can understand what he's saying sometimes. But the album's called Things. Most Things Haven't Worked Out. It's a pretty cool album. And nice. I picked up a Kenny Wayne Shepherd. I like the guitar sound. I'm not a big Kenny Wayne Shepherd fan, but I like it. Then I got I don't have an vinyl, but I got a new CD. I was hoping to get vinyl. It was by a guy named Ted Drodowski, and the song is called "The River." And I think the album or the CD is called "The Scissor Hands." It's like Metallica meets BB King. It is unbelievable. Did I never play it for you, Rob?
I don't think so.
No, you would have remembered it.
Yeah.
It was really, really. Maybe one night I'll play it on here just a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Really cool song. But nah, I'm just I like everything. I got some Lucinda Williams over there. Of course, I got my Led Zeppelin. I got some new Robert Plant, Spaceshippers. I got his new country album, A Band of Joy, where he takes some old Led Zeppelin and makes some country. The other album, he takes actually a Ralph Stanley bluegrass song and makes it into a spaceship song. It's really crazy, really cool CD and album.
Nice. Yeah, Rob came back. He said, "Really, Prince? I got to hear that."
You got to. It's just Dwight Yoakam, Swimming Pools and Movie Stars, Purple Rain.
I'm gonna look that up because Prince is one of my heroes. As far as music goes.
Yeah, me too.
Our friend Lori is here. Hey guys, just letting you all know we have Weevil listeners as far as Northern California. We've been spreading the word.
Way to go, Lloyd. Hey, Lloyd, the first thing I heard when Trump was taken in with COVID-19 that they were pumping those vitamins to him, B12.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah.
Oh, I think Zach's a little late to the game. Sid, listen to 89.9 Weevil Memphis. We do.
Yeah.
A lot of us do.
Everybody's starting to. It's been the best station in Memphis for 40-something years, just people don't know about it because it didn't have a lot of power, then I think when people don't know about it and they first tune into it, they might tune into something they're not familiar with. Then if they don't hear commercials, and they go, "What's going on here?" You know what I mean? But once you start listening to it, you find out it's different genres of music at different times of day. They start at 6 in the morning, go off at midnight, and that's the really cool thing about it. You're never going to hear the same song, maybe ever, twice. That's what's really weird. You're like, man, I will hear that song again. You probably won't, but they play some really cool stuff. I'm glad everybody's tuning into it.
Absolutely. Let me see here. Where is crap? They keep sending messages, so it keeps. Here we go. Val Jordan. Do you still make appearances at matches? And how do you keep your body up from the injuries you sustained from wrestling?
Yeah, I try to make appearances. I really, God, I was doing a few shows up here north of here in Osceola. We did a couple years ago where they had started their own Hall of Fame around the same time WWE does their WrestleMania. I did that a couple years ago and just haven't been back. I do like going to autograph signings at wrestling shows. I like going sometimes. I go to Osceola and just sit in the audience. Me and a couple of our friends. It's weird too. I look at these old guys that are horrible and I really appreciate them. And I'm like, wow, these guys are really good, which they're not, I'm sure. But everything looks a lot better when you're sitting in the audience too.
It's
But
a lot more fun.
It's a lot more fun. And what was the other part of that question, Rob?
Let me go back up just a little bit. Oh, and how do you keep your body up from the injuries you sustained from wrestling?
Well, this is the thing, ma'am. Good looking woman. I see that picture of you on there. No, I've had to since the first year since the COVID thing, I've really got on this diet to where I've taken a lot of stress off. The only really problem I was having was my right knee, where a couple of years ago I had really got into this boxing routine where I'd gotten just such great shape. It was left, right, pop, pop. My agility and my foot speed, hand speed was just so good. Started going to this place called MBS, stands for No Bullshit. Got back lifting heavy again. Ended up hurting my knee, and now I'm having to work around that. And the thing that's worked the best for me, what I was trying to get to, is that the losing of weight, the working on the simple things. Like, and Rob, we talk a lot in the mornings when we're walking. I do a lot of sidewalk, a lot of agility drills like carryovers, side steps, just side shuffles, standing on one leg quite a bit. Then I come in and do as much workout as I can here at the house. I'm hoping by another month or so, because I had to take a couple months off from that hernia surgery I had, that I will be back to where I was about a year ago, and things are looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, though. You were talking about acid earlier. I think people in my area, I don't do drugs, but they think I'm on acid when they watch us walk in the morning.
I bet, yeah.
I'm sidestepping in front of coffee shops, and so it does work. Like we were talking how much of a weight you've lost.
Yeah, I've lost 50 pounds.
Okay. Sterling here said, "Hey, Rob, ask Sid my question from above. If it's the one I saw, we actually answered that last week. Yeah, hey Sid, who called you to come up for the WWE reunion when you beat Heath Slater, and how did the boys treat you in the back?
Yeah, we answered that last week.
Yeah, check out last week's episode, Sterling. We did bring that one up, and it was a good answer too. Here's one from Larry. What was Tatanka like to work with? Got any good stories about him?
Is that Larry Francis in Minnesota?
Well, it's Larry Francis. I'm assuming it's the same one.
There's got to be. Larry, you tried to get into something stupid. Working with the Tonka, I know I had to have once or twice. It was, and everyone says this, so I'm not being mean here. It was like working with a safe that had Velcro stuck to you. I mean, it was just like picking up a safe. He was glued to you. Um, just real heavy to work with. Um, and again, it was his gimmick. I don't like being, and I don't remember working with him. Maybe a tag or something where I had to give him a slam or something. I don't remember, but I remember people saying he was like a safe, and I remember experiencing it somewhere. Maybe the experience was so bad somehow my mind is blocking it out. That's what's
Blocked it
happening.
right out.
But no, he was all right. But who would want to work with that style of guy that you have to wait around for him to do his comeback when the chief thing and the Indian thing and all that. That's crazy talk. I can't do that. I can't do that. I'm sure I didn't. I would have said no to that.
Neber is got a question here, but he's the gentleman who sent the picture. His question: didn't you do acid with Sheik and Buddy Landell one time?
Well, I didn't do acid. They did. And man, that was a heck of a night too. Man, that was so much fun. Um, I was always did the driving. I was the road guy because I didn't drink, and used to driving and staying up all night and waking up early was no big deal to me. And so a lot of times when we drove in WCW, that's the territory we were in at that time. They would pay for your rental car, so you could drop it off anywhere. So if you drove, you could save your ticket. So we'd all drive and save our tickets, and we could use them for whatever we wanted to use them for. Vacate, fly somewhere or whatever they wanted to use them for. So we were Panama City. And the next night was going to be in Louisiana. I want to say Baton Rouge or somewhere. So we were all talking about doing that. Me, Buddy Landell, Pee Wee, the referee, and the Sheik. And they said, man, he goes, we got this big Cadillac. Come on. Hey, Sheik says, come on, guys. The big man to drive. He can drive all night long. He said, we'll do the acid and put the beer down and ice in the floorboard and head on to Bill Watts territory because that's where Bill Watts used to be. And we're like, okay, let's go. So we're all getting ready and we go get everything iced down and get going. And we don't get out of Panama City. They've been tripping on acid for a while now, the three of them. And so they're like, man, yeah, this is great, man. Yeah, wow, yeah, man. And then about that time, woo, cops. So I pull. Now they're freaking out. I'm going. I said, what do you guys do? Just don't look back, because when you look back, they think you're hiding something. So just look straight ahead and don't do anything. So I get out. I'm talking to the guy, pretty nice cop, and I put my foot on the bumper and I start moving a little bit, making them think there's something going on. So he goes, well, look, just go wherever you're going, and just don't speed anymore. I said, okay. So I get in the car and I told him, I said, man, they just said, gave me a ticket. I lied about everything. And so that sent those guys into a bad trip. So we hadn't been out of Panama City even. And Buddy Landell goes, man, why don't we just pull over and get a room and just drive the rest of the morning? We said, man, we got out of Panama City. He thought we were like halfway there. And the Sheik said, no, man, the big man's driving. You shut up. He goes, oh, hey, Buddy kept looking at me like, come on, Sid, just please pull over. And I was like, no, man, I'm not paying for another hotel. I do have to pay for that. So we're driving, and so we get going a little bit farther, and everybody had to pull over, use the bathroom. And you got to realize these guys are on acid, and every little thing really intensifies a bad trip. So now we pull over to a convenience store. We're all in there, and me and Buddy are up front. I'm getting something to drink, and they're getting something. And we can see on the closed capture film, the circuit, the little TV circuit thing they got for the store, we can see the Sheik was stealing stuff, putting in his pants. And so the store manager's like, man, I'm going to have to call the cops. So we jumped in our car. We start hauling ass. So Buddy starts again. He goes, please, just pull over. Let's get a room. And he's saying it to me quietly, hoping the Sheik won't hear it. And I go, Buddy, I'm not pulling over. And the sheik reaches up and just slaps Buddy in the back of the head. Shut up, Buddy, you jabroni. The big man will drive. Blah, blah, blah. So it was like that all night long. I just terrified, tortured Buddy Landell and Pee Wee. Pee Wee didn't say anything. Pee Wee just in the corner, just sunk up in the corner, tripping his brains out.
I couldn't imagine that. Okay. Zach responded back because he was the one that asked about the Weevil. He said, "Yes, sir. My dad learned me on it." So he has been listening to it.
Good going, man.
Yes. Oh, and Lori responded, "Yes, I heard that too about Trump and thought of us." Nice. Where was the other one that I saw? Here we go. Mark. Mark said, "Did you play football at Arkansas State and Byron Green?"
No, Byron did. I didn't. I was had a chance to walk on with a scholarship, but that's when I met Randy Savage and I got into wrestling.
Okay. Oh, and Val, she said, "Thank you, sir, for answering her question."
Oh, thank you, Val, for joining in tonight. Always good to have you in.
Okay. Whoops. This one's frustrating. Okay, here's one. Did you ever work with the Big Boss Man? And if so, how was he? Glenn Carter Jr. from Alma, Georgia.
Glenn Carter Jr., I don't remember working with the Big Boss Man. I remember being on the card with him a lot in the WWF, but never worked with him. He always seemed to be going 100 miles an hour, however. I don't know if I would have enjoyed that. But no, I can't say I have.
Where was the other one? Okay. Never again. He said, "Thanks for clearing that up. What about staying in a motel one time with the Sheik? I heard that was crazy as hell."
Man, there was so many times with the sheep. There was one, I won't go into total depth of it. It was the night before Halloween Havoc when I was working with Sting, Rob, where that was a show where I thought I won the title, and we were at this some guy's room had like a big suite, and there must have been 20 people or more in there, and everybody was hanging out, partying a little bit. And long story short, Sheik talks me into getting this girl to come back to the room for us, for him, not me. And they had a little bit of a problem, and the cops were called, and I got out by the skin of my teeth. I'm not kidding, man. Yeah, what happened was I went to bed. We had this really nice suite there at the Radisson Inn in Chicago, and I closed it off, went into the two beds were in one room, and then there was like a really nice living room. Had one of those refrigeration things, had these really expensive bottles of champagne, $60, $90 in it. And so Sheik and the girl in there watching TV or, whatever they're doing, hanging out, talking. So I hear the cork pop open. And I come out of my room and go, "Hey, what's going on?" Because the room's my name and it's going to be charged to me, right? So I said, "Hey, what's going on?" He goes, "Oh, don't worry about it, big man." He goes, "The girl, she wants the champagne to make her feel good." So he says, "You and I will share this." And I went, "No, we're not sharing this. This is on you, man." I said, "Now keep it down in here. I got to go to bed." So I get back in there, and within, I don't know, before I could get the covers pulled back up here, the girl's screaming, she's bleeding out the nose, and she's going, "That pig slapped me." And he goes, I said, "What's going on?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, This bitch, she slapped me. She drink that good champagne and not want to be with me." I went, God. And then so he goes to hit her again. She starts screaming. So she wants Tom Zink. So I called Tom's room. I said, "Tom, I can't go into it, but I got to get you to let this girl in." And so she leaves, and so I go back to bed. And I tell Sheik, I said, "Sheik, this is it. So you can ride with me, but you can never stay with me ever again." And he goes, "Oh, really?" I said, "No, really." And so about that time, I answered the door and it's the cops. And I went, "Oh my God." So they were really, again, all they wanted, this girl wanted to get to Tom Zink's room, and he didn't answer that time. So I called the room against Tom. "I can't explain. The cops here in my room. You got to answer the door for that girl." So that happened. And that would have been a lot of trouble today.
Yeah.
It really would have been. So I learned my lesson, and everybody sort of thought I was a jerk or stuck up sometimes. But that's why I rode by myself a lot of times. If I didn't know somebody really well, and again, even if you know someone well, and I've told the story about Mike Rotunda getting into that altercation with the Nasty Boys where they all got stabbed by those kids on the interstate that time. You just don't think you think you know these guys, and you just gotta. Sometimes you just have to make better decisions.
Oh no, absolutely. Glenn Carter came back. Thanks, Sid. Have a blessed night. He
You
asked
too, Glenn.
Big Boss Man. Now we have Dan. I said, did you make any money in WCW from your action figures?
Honestly, I, I, WCW was just starting with the action figures, and I know I did. At one time, I made a whole lot of money on them because I had the way that the action figures and percentage on most all merchandising says 33 and a third, or 33 and a third, or 33 and a third. And at one time, I had 33 and a third period of merchandising rights with WCW, and I was getting pretty good then. And that's where I made most of my money in merchandising, which I make okay with the WWE, but nothing like I did there on 33 and a third.
Nice. And they had some excellent figures back then, too.
Yeah, they did.
Bobby Brown asks, do you think you would have beat Warrior in both your primes?
I'm sorry?
The Warrior, Ultimate Warrior.
Beat him in what? Tic-tac-toe?
Maybe.
No, man. You're talking about a real fight? Or do you think wrestling's real? Is that what it is?
I'm wondering, Bobby.
Well, no, if wrestling's real to you, yeah, I probably could have beat him if I was told to. No, I would think, of course the guy's dead. I don't want to say anything about him. But no, I don't think he ever was known as someone who fought or anything like that. I think I could probably hold my own with him.
I can't find it now. I read a little blurb on Facebook where it said wrestling is like porn. Everybody knows the ending. It's just getting there in the most entertaining way possible.
That's it.
So there you go. Bobby's got a different question here. Do you think McMahon was a creep for how he treated Kamala?
I don't know how he treated. I heard I was talking to a kid named Lamar the other day, and we were talking about Kamala. We were talking about some things about him that we'll talk about a little later. We might have a new show coming up on Wednesdays, something we've been talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know about Vince. I've not heard of like someone told me a particular story, what Kamala or Vince did to Kamala. We can only imagine. I have heard this story where Randy Hales and Corey Macklin, who's dead now, they had Kamala go to Little Rock for a show. They'd asked me to go too, and I said no. I knew they weren't going to pay anyone, and they didn't pay him. And I understand that they did him like that all the time. That he was sort of a nice guy enough that you could do that to him. Now, I did hear a story the other day. I heard some story about, I guess, Bruno and Lawler has been talking on Lawler's podcast about Kamala. Maybe this is where he got that. Maybe that's where he's asking the question from. You know what I mean, Rob?
Yeah.
Because we've not talked about Kamala, but that's the only person I've heard of late that had Kamala in the conversation. So that's why I'm using this as a reference or as a comparison. I heard that they said some things, and I know this is probably not totally accurate. They were saying where they didn't feel sorry for Kamala, that he was bitter towards WWF or Vince McMahon for this or that. Bruno, I guess, said Kamala was making $15,000 a week. And I think Bruno would say this to be the truth. Kamala might have had 1 week like that if he was working on top with Hogan. Kamala came in to take my place, so he did get a good spot there for a little bit where he was working with people that were on top. But I'm going to bet you, and I'll bet anything I got, that he didn't average anything close to 15,000. I know he didn't. I know for a fact he didn't. I don't even have to look at his thing. I know he didn't. Okay. One of their stories where I heard was Bruno said that Hogan came in one time and asked Kamala, was he getting paid as much? How was he getting paid? And when I hear something like that, I had people ask me the same thing, and they want to know if everybody's getting paid square because, of course, Vince was known as being one of the worst payoff guys in the business, and you couldn't trust him. When Kevin would get paid, he'd ask me, "What do you get paid?" We'd tell each other. That way, we know that we're both getting a fair shake. And so that was something commonly did. But when I heard the story I heard that relayed back from Bruno and King Lawler was that it sounded like they knew that Hogan knew that he wasn't getting paid. You know what I mean? The right amount. So that's what I got from the story. And for them to say, and I'm sure that this is probably exaggerated time I heard it. No way in this world did that man make where you could say I made or average $15,000 a week. It just didn't happen. I know it didn't. I don't have to think about it. So now you got to realize about Kamala. The dude had a horrible situation where diabetes, to my understanding, took both his legs. Man, I've had where, I haven't lost a leg, but I'm somewhat debilitated from this break I've had where my one leg's an inch shorter. There's not a day that goes by that I wouldn't like to punch the business in the mouth. It just so happens right now Vince is the business. And he wasn't anything to do with my leg break, but again, it's just he is the business right now. So he'll probably take those kind of hits sometime when he probably doesn't deserve it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. He is the face of wrestling. So if something bad's happening in wrestling, it's his business. So
well, to Kamala's point too, he didn't make any money anywhere but there. You know what I mean? He didn't work WCW. He worked those territories like Dallas and those territories when he was pretty, on top of some of those, but they weren't making $500 a week.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't make any money till he went there, and that's where he got his fame as well.
I think we have to have a talk with Neber because Neber says, wait, wrestling isn't real?
Right.
Never. Okay, Val's got another question. How old were you when you got into the business?
I swear people ask me that. I'm not from when I first started training to actually I got my first match. Let me think here a second. In the 80, 82, when I first started, I think.
So you're like 21, 22.
Maybe 84. No, it couldn't be 84 because Frank was born. So 83.
So early 20s for sure.
Yeah.
Nice. Matthew has got a comment here. Hey, Sid, call back to last week. On a recent Vince Russo podcast, Stevie Ray said that he told Animal to approach the Viceland guys at a convention about filming a Road Warrior episode. So your friend Stevie's to blame for that episode.
No, he wouldn't be to blame. This is way. No, he wouldn't be to blame on that. Now, there's nothing wrong with presenting someone an idea, but then, okay, they could have done that a whole lot differently. They could have said just left out the bad stuff, because the deal is, guys, the Road Warriors, their career just it by itself would have been a hell of a show to have done. You didn't have to show any of the negative stuff, because that negative stuff, unfortunately, has come back and casted a shadow on some things. So no, Stevie didn't cause animal. Not animal. Animal. They didn't cause Joe to do that. He did that on his own. And he went up there and maybe said, "No, everybody's jumping on that bandwagon." And I will say this: Stevie probably would love to jump on that 15 minutes of fame, and that's something. And I'd say the majority of wrestlers out there would do the same thing. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But when I said that, when we talked about that last week, it was that for me, I don't want that 15 minutes of fame. And if I would have taken it, I would have done it. I would have only done it if it could have been in a good light. Again, think about it. Think about this. Think about what their career, what that show could have looked like. It didn't have to be dark. You know what I mean? Or as dark. Again, this is the thing is, everyone, when you got a show that's titled The Dark Side of the Ring, they're only looking for shit. Period.
Well, it's ratings.
It's
That's what they
ratings,
want.
guys. That's all it is. I watch the station a lot. I like a lot of the stuff. I don't like a lot of, and I don't like a whole lot of stuff. That's personal to me because these guys on that show, that they're talking about, in this case, Hawk, Chris Benoit. These weren't close friends of mine, but they're part of this wrestling family we have. I take this family like I take my family serious, and I don't want my family ever disgraced. I wouldn't do that to my family. I wouldn't do this to anyone in the business. When I'm telling an acid story of me and the Sheik, that's nothing, guys. Sheik does that on Howard Stern, and that's his story. Okay, I would never do that to anyone that wouldn't mind it.
Exactly.
Again, anything that says Dark Side of the Ring, it can only be bad. Okay, I have not seen a show that came out of that making anyone look good, and I've commented on the Eddie Guerrero and the Chris Benoit story where Vicky Guerrero left him there to die. I just,
That broke my heart.
what could have happened there is that, what should have happened there, that should have been recognized really easily and say, okay, we got to get this person help. And I'm not going to walk out on him. I'm going to stay here till I get him help. I don't know this. It's got to be something that people could do in that situation. I'm not going to say who. I've talked to some wives who have lost their husbands in the same situations. And they're a big time regret. Okay. Even when they don't talk about it at first and then they'll finally bring it up to me, that they wish they'd done something differently or tried something differently. Now, I know that there's got to be a toll on a wife and and the wrestler himself, or whoever, if the girl wrestler, the family involved. And after so much of it, you just get tired of it. And I know that, but it's not all in her lap either. I put the majority in the lap of the wrestling organization, and not just the WWE, but any of these organizations. They should, somehow get together and help these people. You should go on all night about how there's so many people out there suffering from all these different situations and conditions, mental, physical, all of them.
No, that is true. Okay, one last quick question here. And this is an interesting one. Giacomo Pedrino said, and I'm going to preface this one because remember I was doing those interviews for Blood in the Snow.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a couple filmmakers and we got off the air and they asked what stuff I did. I said, I do a podcast with you. And the one guy, he kind of started marking out, but he was telling me about his favorite promo. And it's one with you with Ahmed Johnson. And that's exactly what this question is about. Whose idea was it to stand directly behind Ahmed Johnson on the July 96 episode of Raw, where he introduced you as the mystery partner? By the way, that was one of the best returns in wrestling history.
You know what? I'm sure that was probably the office's idea. I remember it vaguely. And a lot of times things like that probably aren't set up. That's just the way it happened. Now, for me, this is why I think it meant so much when I came back. When I came back, the business popped. I think what happened was it was almost like the turn of a heel turning babyface. I took that time off, and when I came back, they put me right in the top spot like that. It's like, okay, now he's back, and then they gave me a little shot in the arm there. So I think it was set up to be. Not purposely. I think it was just accidentally fell in place the right way.
Nice. Okay, so now we're into the second half, and we've got a lot to catch up on. Okay, because between last week and this week, a lot has happened.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a list here. The first thing right off the bat is they had that first debate.
Right.
Now, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's probably like everyone else's. It it didn't help anyone. Where I've talked to a lot of people on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, where they say the same thing, and the people are being honest are saying the same thing, and the people aren't being honest are like the people are. They're saying Joe Biden won. The other people are saying Bush won. I think I heard Chris Wallace say today that Trump interrupted him 145 times. That's almost impossible to imagine. Neither one of them won. The thing is, too, I said this about, I'll go back to Trump for a second about the Colin Kaepernick thing. He doesn't know when to shut up. If he would have shut up, not that it matters, Colin Kaepernick was never going to play another down. He would have never been heard of again. I believe, I really do want to look back at this for a second. He didn't, I don't think it was Black Lives Matter was his thought in the beginning. If we'll go back and look at this realistic, for real, what happened, he sat on the bench the first week he was benched, and now he'd been, not playing, then playing, and got benched. And what happened? His feelings got hurt. So when he got benched, he was sitting on the bench, and the rules say you have to be on the sidelines. So he did that the second week. And all I say here for a second, if that was his intent, why did he say this the first week? Why did he sit on the bench the first week and wait till the second week where they forced him to be on the sidelines till he brought up the BLM, Black Lives Matter? He did not do that the first week. So that's here and there, okay? That's just my outlook on it. But what would happen there, though, the NFL was never going to let him play again. Donald Trump did not need to say anything, okay? Same thing in the debate. If he could have been quiet just for a few minutes, Joe Biden was, falling over, talking over his feet again. He was stumbling. Trump doesn't know. It's like I scared the crap out of my deacon the other day at church on Wednesday. We were feeding them. They're unfortunate. I stood there for like 15 minutes till we came down the hallway, and it scared him so bad. He's like, "You got to get mad at me." He goes, "Sid," he goes, "Don't ever do that again. I mean it." So, but I said, he said, must have been there for 30 minutes. I said, "Yeah, I'll stay there that long till I can really scare someone." Sometimes you have to wait for something to win. Okay, Donald Trump's evidently not won enough in his life to understand that part of life. So this is why I'm so angry about it, and I sound angry. Is there are some issues, and I won't go into all night tonight, but I'm sort of so torn in between here where there are so many issues on both sides I want to be addressed. Climate change on Biden's side, and then the military. I want to see a strong military. Then I want to see a strong economy, and I don't want to see looting. So you got looting. You got someone who don't want looting. You got someone who climate change that doesn't want climate change. It's just confusing. So, but with this silly bet I've got with three people, one being Maggie and them, that's the reason I'm mad. I want Trump to win because I don't believe Biden is a better person at this point. So I don't mind losing the $50. But when you see him do something like that, it's just frustrating, just frustrating. But Rob, we talked about it, and this is why I'm not worried about it anymore. He's not going to win, and it's not going to matter. Nobody cares. If people really cared about Trump getting elected, they'd be out there doing something. The people I'm talking to that are Trump supporters, instead of telling me about it, they're just sitting at home. If you really cared, you'd be out there doing something to sure you won. You really care about the issues that you talk about, you care about. Evidently, Trump does not care about those issues. If he did, he's had, I think, a couple chances to win this thing. On the other side, Biden as well. Biden, the same thing. He won't announce anything. He won't announce who he's thinking about for the Supreme Justice. He won't. He also did not. What was 2 or 3 weeks ago asking about his COVID test. He went around, never said who gave it to him. He said he does this when he takes the test. He just says, "Yes, ma'am." He wasn't for sure when he took the test. They're both liars. They're both liars. Biden, when they asked him about that $3.5 million, he just said, he brought up some guy's name, goes, "Oh, that guy said it really wasn't that big of a deal." What do you mean it wasn't that big of a deal? And Trump, on the other part, he couldn't stop himself from screaming of the 145 times he butted in to say, "Hey, let's talk about that $3.5 million." It's like, man, you could have walked out of there, but you didn't. Now with him going, I just can't imagine what he's going to do when he gets out of the hospital tomorrow.
It's going to be interesting. This is interesting. We have Nepper saying, "Please don't get political, Sid. It divides fans no matter which way you spin it, even if you split it right down the middle." And
no, you can't. You can't. You're right, dude. You can't. You can't. It's the weirdest thing. This is the first time I've ever followed an election. Now it has been fun because it's like a basketball game, but it's lasted for 6 months.
Whoop, whoop,
I'm not kidding. It's
whoop.
like, you know, when I pull myself back from it, I think, okay, I said, Biden's going to win this thing. It just, I can't, and it's not Biden is good. He's not. It's just Trump is, I'll use this one phrase for the most part. He's overexposed in everything he does. He's been picked on too much, and they brought out every little thing about him, and they made up a bunch of things about him. And what I've gathered from everything, that's what everyone does, is just make up a bunch of stuff. Like right now, CNN News, they're saying that someone his age on these little steroid packs, he could go crazy. I started thinking, dude, if you knew the steroids I've taken in my life with a fever, that's what, come on. They're like making this thing out like he's going to come out with 3 tits, from this thing. Like the monster, that came from outer space with 3 tits. No, but again, it's just, I don't know, man. I haven't watched news today, very little. I do want to talk about something I did see. This is something I want people to know. When we talk about equality or inequality for people, I saw a couple of things over the past weekend, since last week, that made me think about it a little bit. One, there's a show on Viceland called Carrie and Jamel. I don't like all of it, but I picked up on something. They were talking about the Breonna Taylor case. Breonna Taylor. This is, I didn't think about it. Now, I didn't really understand the whole thing, what they were saying, but they were saying black women, and this does make sense, where, they have to take care of their children. They have to take care of their boyfriend's children. They have to take care of their sister's children. There's a lot of responsibilities. Not that it's not on all of us, everyone. I know that's what you're saying right now, but this could happen to anyone. All right. So you don't have a father. I didn't either. So we're all in that situation. Okay. But they're just talking about her case right now. They're not talking about this only happens to black people or people of color. So when you think of these things, and the people go, okay, yeah, maybe this boyfriend was a bad guy. And the boyfriend hadn't been around, she hadn't been around this guy, things wouldn't happen. But we all do that. My wife chose me. I'm a bad person. We know so many stories where good women have picked bad people. So again, with equality, we know she didn't have a father. She'd been working really hard. We know that people of color do face things all the time. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about a guy I just found over the weekend. His name is Jack Trice. Jack Trice Stadium is a stadium named for Ohio State football team. The story about Jack Trice is this. I can't remember the year, but he was the first person of color on the Iowa State football team. He was telling, it was a story about him last night. So this is how the story goes is, black people of color weren't allowed to eat even lunch, dinner, or anything with the rest of the team. They weren't allowed to travel with the team. So the night of the team's meeting and everything, this gentleman, Jack Trice, was in his room by himself. And then he was writing a letter the night before his game. And this is what's so crazy, so cool about the letter. He talked about what he had to do to help this team win a football game. And he even mentioned it. He said he was a defensive player. And I guess this was illegal back in the days where you could do a roll block, and that's sort of illegal now because it hurt people doing that. Well, he says, if I have to sacrifice myself with a roll block, because people don't know this, back in college football days back then, sometimes 15, 20 people a year died in football. That's why college football is way before the NFL, okay? And this is for helmets and all that. So it was a real brutal sport. So when someone talked about this, it really was, very dangerous to do these kind of things. So he talked about it in his letter and how this meant so much to him and his family. And he did mention race, and for his color, he had to do this, meaning he had to make these sacrifices where he didn't get to eat with the team, but he got to go out there and help them win the game. So that next day during the game, he violently throws that roll block, that body block in front of everyone, and it causes his death. So it took years and years later that finally, with all the people that got together, they named that stadium after him. So if we don't understand equality, maybe stories like that will help us think about it. Does that help you, Rob?
That does actually, absolutely.
So if Brenda Taylor's didn't have a father and she's dating a guy that's probably not on the up and up, and that's what she's living with, that's unfortunate, but that's what happens when we don't know any better. Same with me and anyone else gets in that situation. Same thing with Jack Trice. That's inequality. He didn't get to, he's the first, had to go through all these things, just like Jackie Robinson, everyone that broke the barriers and these things like this. But the thing to me about the Jack Trice story is he did it. And to me, is got, that'll go, think about whether it is Iowa State too. That's not, a black college, and I don't hear many college stadiums named after black people, but what a great story and what a great university to do something like that.
Mm-hmm. There's an interesting little side chat going on here on the video. The first thing that Giacomo says, how does Sid not see through Trump? He's a fraud who is selling himself as a character. He says so much opposite stuff behind the scenes. Trump is basically the Vince McMahon in politics. And that's in our conversations. I don't think that's ever been in doubt. Both sides seem to be lying.
No, you're right. You're right. What's his name?
Giacomo.
Giacomo. I'm with you, Giacomo, 100%. No, they're both like that. Trump is, of course, he says he's transparent. He gets away with it a little more often. But this is the thing is, and of course I didn't know because I've never followed a presidential election before. Honestly, I thought Joe Biden was an honest person until I saw him. So I started seeing him on news and stuff, and hearing things about him. But no, Trump is just everything. The virus, everything. Even if me and Rob have talked about it, there are going to be. This virus is going to be around a while. There are going to be some things like Trump did say that where this thing is one day going to go away. It's not going to go. It will be magic. It won't be magically, but it'll seem like that. But it's not going to go away just by people staying at home and the vaccination, because we already know the vaccination. I'll explain this. Is only 50 to 70% effective, and only 50% of people are going to take it at first. So that's going to take a couple of years for that to herd out. We're going to be wearing masks for a long time. Now, that's what does bother me about Trump, that if he would just say, wear a mask, but no, I'm with you. They both do not tell the truth. I've never voted, and I would not and could not vote now. I do see one thing now I can understand. I've always, for the last 50 years, last 8 years or so, I've always wondered why hadn't someone like Colin Powell run. I always thought of him being a really maybe the smartest guy I've ever seen. In front of the camera, as far as in the political arena, he never looked at a prompter. He doesn't seem like he's looking at notes. We know he's he's really smart. And one thing I want to see someone in office, and I know this sounds corny, but I want to see somebody with a military background, like Teddy Roosevelt. And if anyone wants to argue with me about that, I think that argument's over. Teddy Roosevelt is without a doubt the greatest president we ever had, and probably Lincoln second after that. So, but again, I don't want that. I want safety on both sides. But no, they're both. I couldn't vote for someone because I didn't like someone else, and that's what I think, Rob, is in the unfortunate situation with people that do vote. Most people don't know what they're voting for, or they do know what they're voting for, and they don't care that they're voting for something bad, because they just don't like the other person. Or in most cases, they're only voting because they're only Democrat or Republican. They don't care how bad the other person seems.
Yeah.
At first I thought independent people were the weird ones. Well, I got to be independent. I couldn't be either of the other. I do. When I look at history, the presidents stand out to me are Republicans. But I don't know why. But I mean, I do. I don't know why. But again, I like, I guess go back to George Washington. I like someone in the military. Seems like those guys do a better job.
That is one thing the Russians used to do. I don't know if they still do it now, but you could not run for a political office unless you had been in a war.
Well, it would make sense. I mean, that's the most important thing of our country,
Well, they want people to remember the price of war.
Right. That's it. So, Rob, I'm glad you brought that up, and that's exactly why I thought Colin Powell would have been such a good candidate for office because he, both times when he was worked with George Bush Senior and Junior, both times he suggested for not to go to war because he knew the price of war. But when it came down, he had to do it, he did it, and he did a really good job of it. That's why I would like someone like Colin Powell. But after seeing this, I wouldn't run either. They'd bring up those wars against him like he's the one that orchestrated those things. You'd never hear the end of it. Imagine if he had a hangnail to go with that. I mean, they could beat you to death over a hangnail. The media.
Where is it here? Never said, I solved the problem on who to vote for. Check the messages. Yeah, I did see that one up here. Let me just find it again really quick because it does. It solves everything right here. Never said, so what you're saying is to just vote for you.
You know what? I wish it could be that simple. I wish I could say yeah, but I couldn't do it either, guys. Don't know enough about any of this, and that's what's so confusing. I've always thought I had a gut feeling about things. I think I got a gut feeling about this, about Trump. My main thing about Trump, and I'm not knocking him or anything like that. I've just always said he's overexposed for the last few years. And some of it has been warranted and some of it's not. Some has been fair and some has not been fair to put on him. But whatever the case is, he's been overexposed. Never seen anything like this. I'm watching it only from television, okay? Only from the news, watching the news for 15 minutes in the morning while I'm getting dressed. And that's all I've seen. And then for whatever reason, I did see the country change where and I seen it tighten up on where I really thought I was seeing the inequalities and prejudice and racism a little bit sort of die down. And it seems like as soon as he got in the office, it like magnified. And I'm not blaming him for that, but I noticed it. I just seen it everywhere. I've seen it in both ways too, where people of color were always looking at me differently, and these are people I've known for years. I've also heard white people talk of things I never heard them talk about before, and taking stances. Of course, this would be Trump supporters. Like, whoa, man, this is this is this is an everyday stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing is though, it's not going to get any better with Biden. And the way it looks now, it might get worse.
That's one person put in here, and I went back to try and find it, but I can't. That said that it's a decision on who would do the least damage, and
Right.
that's not the position you want to be in for the leader of your country.
Something too. You talked about the debate. I wrote this down the other night. They said after the debate, almost not long after this, they found out. Said after the debate, Trump lost the suburban educated voter. That's what happens when you put yourself in a situation like that. Those are the independent people. Those were the swing votes he needed. And those people said, no, I'm not doing this.
Yep.
Now, that's a poll. Doesn't mean that's going to happen. But, man, I've never seen so many polls against one person in my whole life either. And I know they were against him last time. But I don't know. Of course, we've got another 29 days for this. There's always a chance Biden might not live that long.
Giacomo here has got some more. He goes, let's all write in Sid's name. Sid's slogan would be, I am the master and the ruler of the United States.
Right. Hey, now, Rob, we were talking about this, and we don't know. We're thinking about doing it, and we might only do it through the election. We were thinking about doing a show on Wednesdays called Right or Wrong Wednesdays, and it would be about world news and sports. Like, say, I've heard today there was a great guy who passed away. His name Bob Gibson. If I would ever been a pitcher and I always wanted to be in baseball, Bob Gibson would be the guy I wanted to be. He still today holds the record: strikeouts, shutouts, all the cool records you want, MVPs, World Series. But the main thing was he really did it his way. He was real competitive. always had an edge to him. Probably the most feared pitcher of all time. But we lost Bob Gibson. And those are the stories I'd like to talk about. That on sports and people like Jack Trice from Iowa State, and things like that. And then we want to just talk about what's going on through the election.
I like that idea. I do.
We're knocking around, everyone. We want y'all's feedback. What do y'all think if we need to do another show like on Wednesdays called Right or Wrong Wednesdays, World News and Sports?
Message us. Let us know what you think.
Right.
Okay, I guess so. We're near the end of the show here. Remember I told you that that gentleman Johnny was going to join us, but we missed the beginning of the show. I know he's here with us right now. Stay tuned. Keep with us, Johnny, okay? Because once we're off the air, we'll chat with you for a second. I was also sent by Neber another picture. President Sid, I believe justice will be served.
Good going, man.
There we go. That's it.
Well, I want everyone to understand something. I'm not making a political stance or anything like that. Now, I do really believe things that I have deep convictions about. Really, one thing, everyone, and that's climate change, and I really believe that. And I was watching 60 Minutes tonight, and this is what I want everybody to know about climate change. And this is the only reason I would even think about voting. I never would vote for Joe Biden, but if I thought somebody was really going to do something, I would. But I really believe the world is going to make the changes on themselves, like Amazon. They're going to go completely electric. Walmart's doing the same thing. I think people are smart enough to make these changes for themselves. I don't think we're going to have to worry about Trump not doing it or Joe Biden doing it fast enough. I'm trying to think where I was trying to make my point there.
About climate change and voting for someone who'll do
Oh,
it.
yeah. So I watched 60 Minutes tonight. And this is how simple it is, okay? Climate change. All right. There's a guy named Professor or Scientist. His last name is Mann. And he was talking. He's the guy in charge of everything. The people that, do the work on climate change are our scientists, our country, okay? And this is the thing where we know, and I could go into everything on this that was on the show tonight, but this is what really stood out to me. And I've not heard this before, and I think if people hear this, it might make a little more sense to those maybe were on the fence about climate change. This is something I didn't know, and if you didn't know it, you might be interested to know this. What they said the most telling tale about all the study and data they've shown is this: where people can argue this. One, there's many facts about climate change, or more facts than there is on gravity.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second. So if you don't know anything about gravity, then you might not. You might have not. We're not saying anything. If you don't, then say, okay, I just don't know anything. Second of all, the thing that really stuck out to me is this: the studies and charts they've done on climate change is this: the Earth's atmosphere and the surface, the temperature is going like this right here. And we all think, well, okay, well, the only thing that could cause that would be the sun, right? No, that's not what's working. As our temperature on the surface of the Earth is going like this, the sun temperature is now going down. Science says right now we should be on average 2 degrees cooler. And that would make sense to what everybody's, we hear this theory that these temperatures go in cycles.
Yep.
Well, this time it's not. The cycle is going down, but the Earth's surface is still going up. And that's the difference, everyone. So it's not going to affect me or you probably in our lives. I think it is. I still am a believer that this COVID-19 is indirectly caused because climate change. I think they're going to find that out to be true. I do heard about today, the forest, they agreed, yes, that the forest in California were partly because of the brush stuff underneath the trees and stuff like that, but it also is caused all the surrounding things that are caused by climate change, the lakes and the rivers and everything else. There's no water there. So there's no water there. The trees don't have no water to pull from. So when those things catch on fire, they don't stop there. They just keep going. So there's not something to stop a fire for like last year, I think the record was 4 million total in the United States were on fire. But just California this year had 4 million acres. So some of it is, yes, due to not cleaning things up, and the other is due to climate change. but this is what the scientists said tonight on 60 Minutes. That right there is what's going to really, and I can't explain it. I'll have to look at it again. People can look at it for themselves, but that is going to intensify the possibility of floods, and that is what we're going to be facing.
It's crazy. Let's do. We'll do some more deep diving into that and get some more.
Yeah, listen to what I hope they're wrong. I mean, I only I've heard this for years, like everyone has too. I live out in it, 'cause I work at it all the time. I'm telling you, my shows are these Alaskan shows, these wilderness shows. They're all affected by it. Not everyone would be making this up. I think I don't want to be ugly to people, but it's time to pull your head out of a rock. And if you don't know, just say you don't know. I'm able to do that. If I don't know, I just say I don't know, and then I'll look into it, and I'll try to make. If there's someone like Sid who's telling me that there is climate change, I'm gonna find facts to show that he's not right. That's the only thing I'm doing, everyone. I'm looking at the facts. I'm not a scientist. I believe in science. Again, their jobs are only to gather facts and tell us the truth. They don't have any other. They have hidden agendas. And when now almost all scientists believe that there is climate change, we can't argue with that. And I could even go as far as saying the few scientists that don't believe in climate change are the ones that work for fossil fuel, and that's what they show. Well, again, if it is happening, and I think it is, but we're going to see the worst of it in 30, 40 years from now.
Yeah. Well, I think we should end this with your, jumping into the presidential campaign, because Cheryl said she would vote for you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Did Giancomo can be your campaign manager because he's got everything set out.
There you go, Gene.
Campaign ads, double choke slamming Biden and Trump through the debate tables, and bombing Chris Wallace for good measure. A heel move that still gets crowd approval.
I like that, man. No, you know what? I couldn't run. I would like to see somebody make a change. Now, me and Rob talk about this, everyone, all the time. We talk about all these subjects all the time. And there's a percentage of me says, that this could not be true. This could, this could not show up. But it's a small percentage of me, because but I believe the majority of part of me that believes there is something there. But just like for the COVID-19, I think there is something to about, first me and Robert, we've been quarantined for the last 6 months right now. I haven't had a haircut. But I do believe there is some we have to keep going. And there's, where you see like Sweden and places like that has not shut down one time, and their cases are under ours. But what they are doing, they are wearing, well, they're not. They're not. Sweden not. But places there are, we got to wear masks. But they are social distancing, and they are washing their hands. So if we really social distance, it really is probably close to wearing a mask. But you still, I'm sure there's still a percentage there that says that you still could contract the virus. So for me, I'm only going to Walmart, and that's the only place I need a mask. So, but where I do go, and I got one with me just in case I do need one. So I would say, right now, everybody should do the same.
Yep. Rondell said he would vote for you. Val Jordan said she would vote for you.
All right.
Never said, looks like Sid better get his good suit cleaned for this presidential election.
No kidding, man.
And
everyone, I hope, shut up, Rob. I hope we're not boring everyone with this stuff. I do think it's very important for us to talk about this. I want people to, and I mean this sincerely, and this isn't just as a simple way of saying it. I just want really everyone to get along. That sounds sort of stupid and corny, but if we could just, again, look at the person we're walking across and say something nice to them as we pass by. Just say, how's your day? How you doing? Or something, instead of looking at someone with an empty thought in their head where they have a chance to think that what are they thinking about. Let's get past that. Let's tell someone, hey, how you doing today? Hey, it in a nice day? Just do something positive. Remember when we give something like that. And that's just a nice gesture. The endorphin that person receives is a good feeling, and we get to receive that same good feeling, and that's the act of giving. And that's how simple it is, everyone. All we got to do is say, how you doing today, man? We can make it up. You look nice today. You know what I mean? Anything. That will go a long ways.
The only contagious thing I want floating around is a smile.
Yeah, that's it, Rob. Just a smile, and we can't shake hands, and when we all have to wear a mask, I try to move my eyes. Rob knows this, and we talked about it before. I have to go through my whole life to be sure I don't offend people, just because I'm so hideous looking. But I've got this natural scour. I look mean and everything, so I try to let people not feel uneasy. I have to do that because of my size and everything else, and I know this because of years of counseling about my temper. So I know I have to break that barrier, so we all can do that. And I tell you, I enjoy someone gives me a nice compliment or how you doing, something like that sometime. But I haven't been into a line of smoothie shop in a while, but when I've done this recently several times, not recently, but I've done this several times in my life. If there's a police officer in line, he's trying to get a smoothie too, I buy him one. Just because that's a good thing to do. Remember, doing good things, there's only one difference between God and good, and that's 1-0, everybody.
Yeah. Here is a great thing to close on. Val says, thank you for your honesty and being the Sid I remember when I saw you in Atlanta.
Thank you, Val, for tuning in tonight. We'll be looking forward to talking, and we'll be talking, you'll be listening, and we'll be looking for your electronic letters here on The Vicious Circle with Sid Vicious, or Sidney Udy, and Rob Bellamy, who now has got his own fan club with the total members of one person, with the president and the only sole member, Jeff Arthur from Atlanta, Georgia, who's turned out to be a real jerk. He's actually 1 week behind on podcasts, so he won't hear this until next week. So anyway, he'll get caught up, and one day this shit all work out.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Have a great night.
Good night, everyone.
You've been listening to the Vicious Circle podcast. Your host, Sid Udy. Co-host, Rob Bellamy. Additional research by Pete Marsh. The Vicious Circle podcast is produced by Two Cousin Road Trip Productions, a division of JX3 Media Productions. The intro music is Unleash the Giants by Cemetery Spawn, and the outro music is Digging Space by Mike Treblecott.